All right. To find the angle measure of a triangle using trig ratios, the first thing you're going to have to do is to actually go ahead and identify the angle you're working with and label a side. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with A. If I go from A, down here would be my opposite. I have the adjacent touching and then the hypotenuse over here. So in order to find the angle, you figure out which two sides were given to us. If you go back to SOHCAHTOA, that'll tell us which of the ratios we're going to use. So looking at this, they gave us the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So our three options, it's going to be cosine. That's your adjacent hypotenuse. So we have the cosine of A equals 1 over 4. Okay, that's step one. Find the trig ratio. Now that I'm solving for an angle, okay, whenever you see that we are solving for an angle, we're going to have to use what's called the inverse, the trig inverse. So instead of plugging in the calculator cosine of 1/4, we're going to type in cosine to the -1 of 1/4. All right. And what that's going to look like, is this. So first off, make sure you go to mode. On mode, degree has to be highlighted. If you don't have degree highlighted, we're going to have issues. We go ahead and get out of that. And then to get the inverse, you're going to hit second cosine. When you hit second cosine, we are going to get that inverse, so cosine to the -1. And then you're just typing in what it says, so 1 divided by 4. And that's going to give me my angle, A, to be 75.52 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and keep rounding to the hundredths place for this. All right. So that takes care of angle A. We need to find angle B now. So there's two ways you can find angle B. First off, you can go back to first semester, and we know a triangle has 180 degrees. So I know that I have a 90 here. We have 75.52. We could find the missing. So what else would I need to get me to 180? Or you could use a trig ratio again. I'm going to go ahead and use a trig ratio so we have more practice with this. You go ahead and circle B. You got your opposite, adjacent, and then the hypotenuse stays the same. Okay, so remember, depending on which angle you're dealing with, your opposite adjacent sides are going to change. Looking at this, we have the opposite and hypotenuse for angle B. So my three options, we have sine. Okay, so we have the sine of A is equal to my opposite over hypotenuse. So sine A equals 1/4. Once again, they asked us to solve for an angle. Okay, so we're solving for that letter right in there. When we do that, it needs to be the inverse. So sine -1, 1/4. And you're doing the same thing on the calculator. Okay, so we're already in degree mode. We know that. Get the inverse, you're going to go second sine, and then we got 1 divided by 4. And it's going to give me 14.48. So A equals 14.48 degrees. Okay? And that's not A. We were working with angle B. So let me switch these to B's. Okay? So you could easily check your work by adding these three angles together, and they should get me to be 180. So you have 75.52 plus 14.48 plus the 90, which was already given me, adds up to be 180 degrees. If you add them up and it's off by a little bit, like a decimal or maybe even 1, that could be due to rounding, but it should be right around 180 degrees for the total of the three angles.